Hi, y'all. Welcome to the GradMissions Office Hours podcast. I'm Autumn.
Hey everybody, I'm Lizanne.
Hi everyone, I'm Logan.
This week, we are going to talk a little bit about med school admissions. It is starting to be med school season. We have been thick in the law application cycle, but we're kind of getting to that point where if you're a law applicant coming in right now, our advice is going to be, and you haven't had the LSAT, it's going to be to apply for next cycle. But our calendar is very quickly filling with people who are med school hopefuls. And so we thought we would just take a little time today to talk about where your mind should be as you start planning to apply to medical school.
Okay, so for a second, I just want to pretend that I am a prospective med student.
Logan, is this
And
your
don't
reveal that you're going to apply to med school? This is so exciting. You've come to the
every
right place.
every med student I've ever worked with would die if I went to med school. They would just fall out of their chairs. No, I work with undergrads. I've worked with undergrads in the past. I've also worked with med students, and so I'm going to take on the role if you'll indulge me for a second.
Okay.
So if I'm a sophomore or junior right now, first of all, would that be the ideal time for me to start thinking about working with maybe grad missions or, I mean, let's be honest, only grad missions. You should only work with grad missions.
Only work with grad. You're talking about in high school, right? No, you're too late. You should have started in seventh grade.
I was gonna
Sorry,
say, I learned about med preparation.
rejected.
Yep, with seventh grade.
Yes, sophomore, junior in college. Hopefully, you've already started thinking about med school a little bit, but now is time to take it out of this like ethereal, like someday I'm going to med school. There are practical things that your little body should be doing right now.
So what's the first thing I need to think about? Is it MCAT? Is it course selection? Is it extracurriculars? Lay it out for me.
Yes, all of the above. That is the trickiest thing I think about the glide path to med school, and how it's very different from law school. Because when you're going to med school, you have to have so many ducks lined up. Your GPA needs to be strong. Your BCPM, science GPA, that's all science and math classes, needs to be really high. You need to be taking the classes that are going to prepare you to take the MCAT. You need to be building relationships with your science and math professors so they can write you strong letters of recommendation. You need to be shadowing doctors so you can figure out what specialty you want to be in. You need to be volunteering. You need to be getting hands dirty patient experience. You need to be journaling about all of those experiences. Then you likely need to be getting research experience. How do you do all of those things at the same time? You have to start early. That's the only answer.
Okay. Okay, so it's the late fall. Students are enrolling for next semester. So let's just start with course selection. You mentioned courses that are going to help prepare me for the MCAT. What are those courses?
So
Biochemistry, I know that one.
biochemistry she's the number one bay when it comes to med school admissions and even beyond med school admissions. Like statistically, we know folks who perform well in biochemistry do better on USMLE. Like having that foundational biochemistry base, like that scaffold, is the most important thing you can do for your medical school career. Like I do not take curated application clients if they have not had biochem. Some people skip it because it is not a prerequisite for most med schools, but it is a prerequisite if you work with us. And if you're in, sophomore, junior year, you're thinking about when to take the MCAT, biochem is so important, but there's also a scaffold to that. Your school is going to have kind of a prescribed path if they know that you're pre-med, but let's say you're not pre-med. Let's say you're a really smart, savvy student. You know you want to go into a specialty that requires a lot of research. And so you've taken my advice. Here it is, guys. Be a statistics major. Hot take. You don't have to be a biology major to go to med school. It just is the degree plan that aligns them with the most prerequisites. But if I had a kid who wanted to go to med school, my own child, and they asked me what their major should be, I would say statistics. Because when you're a PI looking to fill a lab, you've got 700 biology majors and one person who understands statistical modeling and yield. I'm picking that stats major every single time. It really sets you apart and gives you a different perspective.
I just heard the air deflate from every
Yeah,
prospective med student's balloon because
about to go viral again.
Yeah, I don't know, like
Please.
the statistics, does that really, like, does statistics light the fire of people who want to help people in the medical field? Does that make sense? That
It
was,
depends. It depends. People who want to, I think there is just such a mismatch of the information and the way that we prepare people to go and not just into medical school, but into medicine. Logan, you and I work so closely with people who are applying to match, right? And we know to successfully match into those more competitive specialties, which a lot of these little darlings, if you're thinking this early about med school, you probably have your sights set on a really high research requiring specialty. If you don't have a strong research background that prepares you, you are not going to match into that competitive specialty. You're just not. And so you have to start now thinking about where you want to end up. If statistics doesn't light you on fire, if research doesn't light you on fire, great. Make sure that your end goal specialty aligns with your passions. Does that make sense?
so you're saying if you know that you want to be a neurosurgeon, your research CV starts now because you're going to include that on your match application and to
Exactly.
accrue the amount of research that perhaps a neurosurge residency program wants to see, it starts at the undergraduate level.
It absolutely does.
And it's probably better maybe to prepare that way and then research experience is never going to hurt someone. So if you back off that and decide you really have a heart for family medicine, bless you, number one.
Okay.
Number two, that's just something to add to your CV. It still makes you a strong applicant.
It makes you a stronger family med match because you've got research experience, right? Like research experience is going to be sexy the end in med school. The other thing is that with the funding cuts currently in this current administration at NIH, a lot of MD, PhD applicants have dropped the PhD and are just pursuing an MD. So suddenly you're in the MD applicant pool with people who have a very deep well of research. And this is not to say that if you don't have a lot of research experience, you can't go to med school. That is not what I'm saying. But if you want to go to a top tier one med school and you want to match into a competitive specialty, it is very, very competitive.
Woo! Okay. So now I'm taking biochemistry. I'm preparing for the MCAT. I'm gathering up my research experience. What about shadowing?
Shadowing is really best done early on in your undergraduate career when you have a little bit more time and flexibility. I love taking the summer to do that, maybe while you're chipping away at some non-science and math courses in the summer, do some
Yeah, that's a good
shadowing,
idea.
right? Because I
You're not
want you
doing
to
both. Yeah.
exactly. I want you to save your science and math for long semesters. And if you're in the UC system and you only have quarters available to you, I understand you do the best that you can. Probably need to have 2 quarters of biochem. If you can get it with a lab, even better. Chef's kiss. I don't want you cramming biochem into a summer. I need you to have a full semester of that. So I love using your summer to take the courses that are going to build out the rest of your degree plan and shadowing. If you start shadowing early enough, you're going to build relationships with those physicians, right? You're going to show up on time. You're not going to have your nose in your phone. You're going to be professionally dressed. You're going to be a part of a team. You are going to ask thoughtful questions and you're going to journal with detail about those shadowing experiences. If you find a specialty that you really love to shadow, great. That's a pretty good indication. Maybe that's what you want to do. You're building your professional network right now. Start seeing if you can become an MA, if you can become a scribe for this physician. What can you do at their office to dig in more? Maybe you do it and you're like, this is the worst specialty there ever was. I don't want to do this. Great. That's even sometimes even better information to have. Then you can move to shadowing or volunteering in another space. The idea is not just to shadow for shadow's sake, but to actually get meaningful experience from that shadow. You are not just a bump on a pickle while you shadow, right? You should be an active shadowing participant.
And thinking about your essays, right?
Exactly.
And yeah.
Exactly. Yep. You think you're going to remember that, Mo's surgery that you got to see. That was one of our applicants this cycle. He got to shadow a Mo's surgery, which is so cool. He was so excited about it. But it happened 2 or 3 years ago. But thankfully, he had done a voice note. and recorded it. And so we were able to write about it with crystal clear clarity in his application. And he got asked about it in an interview because it's a really rare thing for someone to be able to see. So those are the kind of things that I would recommend that you start doing.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. As,
Perfect.
you know, an admissions officer, what was like the most interesting extracurricular or separator kind of that's kind of another term that I would use. Like, what's the most interesting one that you saw or most unique one that you saw a student come in with that, an admissions committee was like, that's interesting. I'd like to know more.
Something outside of the science and math arena. That's how you stand out. Be a musician, be an artist, be someone who started a club for folks who wanted to play chess, like whatever it is, like do something that's a little off the beaten path. Everyone applying to med school has the same extracurriculars. And even if you're the president of the club, it's still the same club that we've seen 700 times. And so if you want to stand out, do something outside of the box. Are you a break dancer? Do you like play hacky sack? Do you like sing karaoke? Like find a way to feature that on your extracurriculars and it really does make you stand out. Experience-wise, the tastiest little morsel for interview committees that I have heard is when you are able to shadow or volunteer with a medical examiner.
Ooh.
Uh-huh. Because talk about some hands dirty experience. Those medical examiners don't get a lot of folks who are like, everyone wants to do peds or neurology or whatever. So if you contact the pathologist in your area, your coroner's office, your medical examiner's office, Logan's smiling because you know these characters that I'm talking about. They are so fun, first of all. Second of all, like they may let you actually get your hands in there and figure out what's going on. So anytime I've had a client who has ME experience, they get asked about it in their interviews.
I've never met a pathologist that I didn't adore. They are the cutest, quirkiest bunch of folks.
And just doing the Lord's work out here.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
there's
with honestly no credit.
no credit and no respect. No.
Yes, like I never thought about that until I worked for a pathologist that, a client-facing attending is kind of sometimes getting the credit for the work that the pathologist did.
That's right.
Because,
That's right.
right, like the internal medicine doc ordered the lab work, sent the lab work off to the lab, a pathologist interpreted it and said, here's what this person has, and then your client-facing or your patient-facing physician delivered the news as if they came up with it, but it was the
That's
pathologist.
every single time. Yep. So
True.
those are some like ways to really stand out and differentiate your application and your experience.
And like you said, it's not, you don't have to do every club. It's probably best that you
One or two.
pick one or two, and it doesn't have to be the ones that other people are doing. And same for law too. Like someone who has a really neat interest, helps you stand out.
It really does. It
I
really
do
does.
feel I feel like before we close out, I've seen this a couple of times, so I do just want to bring it up. The social science requirement
Mm.
for med school, it seems like sometimes we encounter a student who doesn't have quite enough credit.
Mhm.
Is that because med programs require different amounts of a social science, or is it
Yeah, it differs by school, all those prereqs, and some schools have things that are recommended, but not actually a solid prerequisite. But I do think the psych-soc section of things in MCAT prep and prerequisite prep is sort of what gets lost because you're so focused on orgo and biochem, which you should be, right? But those, psych-soc kind of classes really do prepare you for that very important part on the MCAT and for the prerequisites. And I mean, you need that scaffold to go to med school. You just need it. So definitely be aware of what those requirements are going in.
okay? Well, I feel like I'm ready. I'm gonna
You
send it.
ready? I thought for sure you were going to be like, never mind, I'm going to go to law school instead. And we got you covered. That is the great thing about grad missions. If you're a sophomore and you're like, but what if I change my major? We got you. We got you. We help you with law. We help you with med. We have even helped some people earn both. So no matter what your interest is, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, if you're the parent of someone who wants to be a doctor or a lawyer, We have plans and packages and strategies to meet you exactly where you are. Best thing to do is go to our website, gradmissions.org, go to the book a call section, find a time on our calendar, and we will spend 20 minutes with you. We are not scary. This is exactly how we talk. This is exactly how we look on that call. And I promise you will leave with a plan. Thanks, y'all.
Absolutely. Bye.